Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We're going to have a great show for you today. But I want to start the show completely. Well, it is on topic because I did add this to the topic after I started to see all the reports. But I want to play this piece that I kind of cut and pasted from MSNBC, and that's how I want to get the program started before I officially get into all the other things that we're going to talk about. Because this one hurts just as much as it did with Trayvon Martin. And in effect, it's even worse because this was just somebody jogging. The title of the show today has within it, jogging or running while black. A lot of people, oh, there we go again. No, it's not there we go again. It's there is another innocent black person dead from a gunshot, not even from a cop, from a regular citizen, just like Trayvon. A regular citizen, and which everybody says, ooh, okay, that guy got violent. After we pursued him, he got violent with us. We felt our lives in danger, so we killed him. Look, take a listen to this and then we'll move on from there.
Even though a prosecutor says he wants criminal charges considered, no arrests have been made.
The video drawing international attention. Ahmaud Arbery, who's African American, is seen running on a Sunday afternoon in February in Brunswick, Georgia. Gregory McMichael and his son Travis, who are white, are in a pickup truck ahead, both armed. Travis fires a shotgun and kills Arbery. According to a police report, the father, Gregory McMichael, a former police officer who once worked for the local DA's office, said there had been several break-ins in the neighborhood, and a man he viewed as the suspect was running down the street. He and his son grabbed their guns and went after him. McMichael also said Arbery began to violently attack Travis. Arbery's mother says her son was just out for a daily jog.
He was into fitness, and that's just something that he did. That's something that he enjoyed doing.
An attorney for Arbery's family says he was unarmed and tried to avoid the truck. He says there's no evidence to suggest Arbery was committing a crime. Georgia does have a statute allowing citizen arrest.
However, you must personally observe the crime. So it can't be you believe that someone may have committed a crime in the area in the recent past.
Supporters of Arbery's family have organized protests. LeBron James, Viola Davis, and Wanda Sykes among those voicing outrage. NBC News has been unable to reach the McMichaels, but attorney Alan Tucker, who's known Gregory McMichaels for 30 years, says there isn't a prejudicial or racist bone in his body. Tucker says he released the cell phone video to get the truth out there. Two prosecutors recused themselves because of connections to the McMichaels, one of them from Waycross, writing he thought their actions were perfectly legal, and Travis McMichael was allowed to use deadly force to protect himself after Arbery allegedly initiated the fight and grabbed his gun. On Tuesday, the DA, now responsible, called for a grand jury to consider criminal charges. But because of coronavirus closures, that can't happen until June.
What pains me the most is that he was killed, but then the authorities, they let me down.
The Georgia Bureau of Investigations is now investigating the case. Today, the FBI said it is also assisting with this.
Let me tell you, the most disturbing part of that report, and I'll go into the rest in a little bit. But here we go. there is a black man dead running through a neighborhood doing his exercise. Two white guys approach him, well, one with a gun. This guy feels, the guy who got shot feels he's in danger. Of course, he's doing his everyday run. And somebody comes with him with a gun. And they said, oh, it's justified. He's innocent. He doesn't have a racist bone in his body. He's innocent. Let's see what happened. There is a white guy with a gun. There's a black man dead on the ground. The black man was just jogging. The black man was just jogging. And nobody is to be blamed. And if there is anybody to be blamed, it's to be the black dead man. I mean, the things, if you are anybody that is listening to me here, black, white, or whoever, I want you to articulate that in your mind. That somebody could come and say, look, I would have understood if they said, I thought he was a thief and I accidentally killed him. I am wrong for assuming wrong. I am wrong for killing him, even though my assumption must have been based on me being a racist or a prejudiced person. But, I can't control that. But I can control the actions. And he kills the guy and then says, but he's innocent because the black guy violently attacked him. The black guy without a gun violently attacked the guy with a gun. So the guy with the gun was justified to kill the guy without a gun. This is America. Running while black, driving while black, all these other things. Let me tell you, I'm going to tell all my white brothers and sisters that are listening right now. You have to do something about this. You have to be the ones that actually, color is a stupid thing. Race is a stupid thing. But it's there. And it's what many has been culturized to believe in. And the fact that these people have in their minds that they can do this mean that it is a culture that tells them it's okay. It is a culture that says one life has more value than another. And a lot of you that are listening here, that's not you. But it is you. Why is it you? Because for those that that have those beliefs, you have to be there to put them straight. How the hell can somebody say there is a dead black man on the ground without a gun just jogging, and you are innocent for killing this guy who was defending himself because somebody I don't know, I'm minding my own business and you approach me with a gun? Same thing with Trayvon Martin. Trayvon Martin is off with his hoodie to get some food, and he's on his way home, and somebody is tracking him. If you are walking, I put it in the reverse. If you are walking, and this black guy continues to follow you around, as Trayvon Martin was followed around by this white guy. Oh, they like to say, oh, he's Hispanic. No, he's just, look, Hispanic is not a race. Anyhow, and he's walking around and he's walking around. I'm Hispanic. I'm Latino. Come on. All right. So he's walking around and he's walking around. Then he gets killed. And the guy says, well, he was beating up on me, so I had to shoot him. What the hell were you doing following him in the first place? He is in fear of his life himself. He's in fear that some dude I don't know, I'm not robbing or doing anything, and you approach me with a gun. Same thing, this guy is jogging. What can I do? I live in Kingwood, Texas, a predominantly white neighborhood. Am I supposed to be in fear if I just decide to be jogging and some crazy comes out here and say, oh, on my street there was some robberies. There's this black guy running. Let me blow his head off? Do you guys get it? Do you guys get the kind of fear that somebody like myself has to feel when I see things happen like this and then there's no repercussions, and then we're sitting down to see if the FBI needs to come in or if the state of Georgia needs to come in when there is a dead black guy on the ground, unarmed, jogging, haven't done nothing, and somebody who thinks, oh, I think he's this guy, let's trail him. And not only that, let's record it. This was a lynching. And you know why they felt comfortable to do it? because we have an environment now where it is okay. You see all those guys with the AK-47s in Michigan. This is okay. You have to understand the mentality. So, when I saw, it is interesting because this happened in February. I'll be frank, I thought I got reports on all these things. I probably just missed this one. But when I saw the report yesterday, I started to look at it and read it, and I just couldn't believe it. There has to be something that I'm missing. There has to be something that I'm not seeing here, because this just couldn't be. Trayvon Martin was a long time ago. We've learned our lesson. Yes, the cops are still killing black men. Yes, I understand that. I understand that mechanism. I do understand that, okay? These are guys who know they can kill and get away with it. But now the average citizen also can blow your head off and get away with it? Do you understand the danger that black men and people of color should be feeling right now? Do you understand that? And you know, there are going to be those who, you're blowing this out of proportion. No. I want you guys to internalize this. Whatever race you are, as stupid as race is, whatever race you are, you go ahead and internalize that being on the reverse. That there is a black man tailing you, approaches you with a gun. Aren't you going to fight like hell? Because you don't know why you're innocently running, you're innocently walking, and somebody approaches you with a gun? Come on, people. Let's get with the program. Let's start doing this stuff right. I wrote a blog post after Trayvon Martin went through his stuff. I went ahead and I wrote many articles on this. And then I always pointed out, I try to avoid at all cost, as a black man, I try to avoid at all costs any dealings with police officers. I try to avoid them completely. If I'm driving and I see them, my heart is still in my mouth, in my throat. Not because all of them are bad, but enough of them are bad. Enough of them have that gun with a power, something that makes them feel something. And then, of course, they exert that power on folks they think they can get away with doing things too. That's a fact. That is a fact. Okay? So let's be clear. This is something that look, we understand this. But now when it comes from the people proper, we thought Trayvon would have been an example and everybody would be scared because Trayvon wasn't going to be repeated again. And why wouldn't he be repeated? Because people are going to say, we kind of got away with that one. Let's not do it again because this time it's going to be, that is exactly, this one is worst. This was in daylight. And we had somebody taping it. This was a lynching. Somebody taping the damn thing. Okay, I can imagine they didn't necessarily want to kill the dude. They just wanted to see how they could humiliate this guy, and they were going to have it on video. And when he fought back because he was likely scared with somebody with a gun, they themselves then get scared and blow his head off. They deserve to get the death penalty if anybody was to get a death penalty. An innocent man running. And then the state, those officers, all of them should be fired and thrown away as well. If you are a person of color, if you are black, this should send, I tell you what, down your spine. Because what else is there? Just from your being, you are in danger. Just for who you are in danger. Lee Grant says, when I first heard of this, I thought whatever the truth about this unfortunate incident, the spin narrative of this will be raw meat for the press, for leftists, and race baiters. No need to wait for truth. And even if the truth comes out, it will make absolutely no difference to those with political, social agenda. Again, all these truths have been there. When Trayvon Martin was killed, we didn't need any, no, the left didn't have to do anything. It was the truth. He was murdered. When Philando Castile, who had a gun, who told the police officer, "Officer, I have a gun, I have a license for my gun." And the police officer says, "Okay, go ahead and get your license." Before he got a chance to turn and get his license, with his girlfriend in the car, his head is blown off. In Louisiana, the guy is simply not resisting. The cop is, "Stop resisting, stop resisting." The video clearly shows you nobody is resisting. And still, pop, pop, blew his head off. You know, and then for the Lee Grants of the world, people on the right on the world, they would want you to believe that, oh, the left is just overreacting to these issues. There's no overreaction here, folks. There's no overreaction here. It's on video. If even a video is unable to convince you of what's happening to black men and people of color, you need to check your level of prejudice and your level of racism internally. And for those who said, "Hey, but look at this, 90% of black men are killed by other black men." Oh, no kidding, but 87% of white men are killed by white men. Oh, statistically insignificant. Oh, why don't you complain about the murder rates within the ghettos? Well, why don't you check the murder rates in Appalachia? It's a socio-economic issue clouded by fallacies. Let's be clear, folks. And I wish if the left was really doing its job, as soon as some right-wing person says, "Oh, look at what happened," they will immediately make those arguments that I just made. But you see, even on the left, because remember, the left is just as white as the right. And there's just something inherent within some people that can't understand that that the underclass is within every single race. There's an underclass between every single race, and that underclass in those races all behave the same. The only difference is this: those in the black race or Latino race or whatever that are not the underclass, even outside of the underclass, the way they are treated, as far as the law is concerned, as far as gun issues are concerned, they still suffer the same fate of those in the ghettos, the barrios, and Appalachia. But notwithstanding O.J. Simpson. So folks, let's get this right. Let's understand this. If you look at what happened to what's his name? Ahmaud Arbery. If you look at what happened to Trayvon Martin, if you look at what happened to Philando Castile, if you look at what happened to Michael Brown, and I went to where Michael Brown was killed, if you look at all those things and all you see is black people playing the race card, I'll put it bluntly, as kind and as respectful that I can. You are a prejudiced person and likely bordering on racist, because it's quite obvious and I live it within the skin. And this one touches at home. This one touches home. And I always make sure to try to not make issues affect what goes out. But in this case, this is close to home. I could be running in my community and this could happen to me. And those people who see nothing happening to those guys who murdered Ahmaud, that just gives them the red light. Oh, I'm fighting with my wife. I'm pissed off. I have my gun in the back of my pickup truck. Oh, there's this dude. Blow his head off. Get some steam out. So anyhow, I suggest my brothers and my sisters, all of you, white, black, blue, whatever, do something. Do something. All right, second topic of the day. Yes, last night I kind of got a bit concerned with folks crowing, right? As we know, the economy is about to go into a depression. That's almost I call it a natural certainty. A lot of people don't believe that, but I think we are definitely going into a depression, not a recession. I think we are heading into a depression. Now, here is the issue. I also think that Many people think that the economy is going to be so bad, it's going to stink so bad that Donald Trump is a sure loser. And what I want to tell people is this. Please don't do it. Let me go ahead and play this on one side, and then we'll take it on the other. See, Democrats crowing. I want to play this, and then I'll take it on the other side.
When Phil Rucker talks about when you remove the economy as something for him to run on, do you worry about what folks are going to resort to in this campaign, which we already know isn't going to look like any campaign we in the modern era have ever seen?
Well, the only thing I worry about is they mess with the right to vote. As long as there's anything close to a level playing field, I really don't care what they're going to do. They were going to lose before this hit. They're just going to lose worse now. And they all know it. And they're all getting profiles written of themselves. I saw Blaise Pascal, the campaign manager, whatever his name is, all over the New York Times Magazine posing for pictures. I mean, this whole thing is gone. I mean, the Oracle of Orangeburg can tell you that. He's right there with me. The whole thing is just crumbling right before our very eyes.
Now, I've said in various modes that it's almost impossible for Donald Trump to win. I've said many times that it is for us to lose, meaning for Democrats to lose, and I still stand by that. But that kind of crowing that I just saw there is not something that should be done for one specific reason. And I'm going to give you that reason with a quick little video. And I'm going to just kind of give you a piece of it, then go a little bit forward and give you another piece. Check this out. This woman, right, is there's this video that's going on around, well produced, and it attacks Dr. Fauci. It also talks about a pandemic. This woman is a woman that is an anti-vaxxer or sort of an anti-vaxxer. And this is a very well orchestrated video that makes it seem like the coronavirus was out of the labs. And not only was the coronavirus out of the labs, but the coronavirus Dr. Fauci had some thing to do with it. I mean, they covered all their bases to discredit Dr. Fauci and also to make it look like this disaster wasn't man-made. This is it. I just want a little piece. Let's see if it'll play. I don't know if it'll play or, well, it doesn't look like it want to play, so I'll go ahead and let it go. But what I want you guys to understand is there is a concerted effort to rehabilitate what has happened in Washington with this pandemic. And it's not going to work with a lot of people. Smart people I shouldn't say smart. That is condescending. People that are politically aware will automatically understand what this video is. This video, I can't remember the title. The video is called, they call it Pandemic, the Plandemic Movie. The Plandemic Movie. The thing about this video, right, is it's well designed and it's there to cover all the bases. It attacks Fauci to diminish him. It tells a lot of truths are in that video. The pharmaceutical companies are evil. The universities are starting to get a whole lot of patents so that they can then sell it off to these capitalist companies so that they can then turn it into product and rip you off dry. So it is a cycle starting from the universities getting grants, getting patents, selling the patents or licensing the patents and making a whole lot of money for those researchers, right? It's a regular capitalist thing. And it's university joining the capitalist domain as well. But not because the pharmaceutical companies are evil. Not because certain sectors within the university systems are evil and profiteering on your backs for things that you've already paid for. Does that mean that a coronavirus or a vaccine for the coronavirus shouldn't be taken or won't be any good or anything like that? Two things can be mutually exclusive. And what we have to do, first of all, the first intent of this video is to correct or fix Trump's problem. That is the first intent of that video. That intent is to absolve Trump of the disaster that he's created by causing this depression that's going to occur and by causing the deaths of tens of thousands of American citizens. That's what that video does. And it is effective. So my warning to all of those who are crowing because right now it seems like we're going to take the Senate, we're going to win the presidency and all of that. That is only true. That is only true if we do our job and match every video that comes out like this with one that counteracts it. It is only right if within our frame, if you're sharing politics done right, yeah, that there are more people who are kind of made aware of this kind of stuff. If you're sharing a whole lot of stuff, that is how we are going to make the change. But just sitting back down there and say, oh, the economy is cratering, great for Trump losing, it ain't going to happen like that. Trump can still win because there are enough lefties, my left brothers and sisters, sending me this video, believe in this video. Oh, wow, check this out. I mean, it fits a lot of those of us on the left. We know the pharmaceutical companies are evil. We know that we're double paying because of patents and all of that. We know that, and it's the things that we fight against. So what this video was designed to do was to drag some of the less politically aware lefties into their domain, and that absolved Trump. And eventually the next one that's going to come is going to be against El Señor Biden, which is going to show Biden with the pharmaceuticals, Biden with, I mean, this plan that they're executing is so clear. It's so clear if you're politically aware. And I want you guys to understand it, because this is the beginning of a winning campaign strategy if it's not mitigated. If we don't have the backstop, that can win, because that is only the beginning. Anyhow, today's program, I have a great guest, Alan Grayson. And you remember who Alan Grayson is, remember? Die quickly. So let's go ahead and get busy with that one, and we'll come back on the other side. Welcome to this new segment on Politics Done Right. I'm here with the one and only Alan Grayson. I want you guys to remember who Congressman Alan Grayson from Florida 9 is. I want you to listen to this, and then we'll be right back.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. You may recall that a few weeks ago, President Obama came to this chamber, and he addressed the chamber on health care before a joint session of the House and the Senate. During that session, I was privileged to be here, and I saw my colleagues on the far side of the aisle, the Republicans, waving pieces of paper during his speech. And I was wondering what they were. I couldn't imagine. It almost seemed like they wanted President Obama's autograph. I just didn't get it. I heard from one of my colleagues that this is what they called the Republican health care plan. I went over after the speech was over. I picked up a copy that was lying down on the Republican side, and it turns out that the Republicans' health care plan was a blank piece of paper. I inquired further, trying to find out exactly what the Republicans' health care plan is, and it's my duty and pride tonight to be able to announce exactly what the Republicans plan to do for health care in America. It's this. Very simply, it's a very simple plan. Here it is, the Republicans' health care plan for America. Don't get sick. That's right, don't get sick. If you have insurance, don't get sick. If you don't have insurance, don't get sick. If you're sick, don't get sick. Just don't get sick. That's what the Republicans have in mind for you, America. That's the Republicans' health care plan. But I think that the Republicans understand that that plan isn't always going to work. It's not a foolproof plan. So the Republicans have a backup plan in case you do get sick. If you get sick in America, this is what the Republicans want you to do. If you get sick, America, the Republican health care plan is this. Die quickly. That's right. The Republicans want you to die quickly if you get sick. Now, the Democrats have a different plan. The Democrats say that if you have health insurance, we're going to make it better. If you don't have health insurance, we're going to provide it to you. If you can't afford health insurance, then we'll help you to afford health insurance. So America gets to decide. Do you want the Democratic plan or do you want the Republican plan? Remember, the Republican plan, don't get sick. And if you do get sick, die quickly.
Welcome aboard, Congressman. How are you doing today?
I am doing fine. How about you?
I am doing great. You know, I've always been like a follower of what you did. A few years ago at Netroots, I kind of held you down and got an interview out of you. But I think it was, if I remember correctly, right after you gave that great speech on the floor. So beforehand, let's remind America what it was like in those days when you had to come out and say what you said on the House floor.
Well, the day before, President Obama had given a speech, and he said, as he often did to the Republicans, I want everybody's best ideas. If you've got ideas, I'd like to see your ideas. And the Republicans started to wave something in the air. It looked like some kind of, I don't know, binder or something. I didn't know what it was. I'd never heard that the Republicans actually had a health care plan. So I went over when the speech was over and everybody was leaving the room. I went over and looked at it, and it turned out that they had been waving blank pieces of paper in the air at the President of the United States in lieu of actually having a health care plan. And so what I ended up doing is a little bit of satire on what the health care plan actually was. That was the inspiration for that speech.
Well, I mean, when you say they want you to die, but not only die quickly, you're calling it satire now, Congressman. I am sorry, but I am in strong disagreement with that. I don't think it is satire, and I think what Donald Trump is doing right now proves it's not satire. What do you say about that?
Well, yes. I mean, unfortunately, the truth has remained true for all too long. And right now, there's a national crisis over this specific truth. The Republican coronavirus plan is don't get sick. And if you do get sick, die quickly before you infect too many others. That's where we are right now. And it's a sad, sad thing. There's a fundamental divide in this country between the people who are now in power, who view everybody else in the country as tools to do their bidding, and the rest of us who believe in the greatest good for the greatest number and believe that there is a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, which is hard to do when you're in a hospital bed on a respirator. So that divide has been there for a while. I pointed it out in my speech. It's still there. And right now, once again, just as it was before, it's a matter of life and death.
Now, sadly, I don't know what we can do in this administration with the Senate that we have, and even with some of the folks that we have in Congress. Let me back up. What have you been doing since you left Congress? Or since you left Congress?
I've been practicing law. I was a lawyer for whistleblowers before I went to Congress. The Wall Street Journal, which isn't always a fountain of truth, but nevertheless in this case was right, named me as someone who was fighting a one-man war against war profiteers in Iraq back when the Iraq War started after 2003. And that was a fair statement. I was the only attorney who ever took a case to trial against war profiteers in Iraq and won. And so I've returned to that kind of work. And frankly, I'm enjoying it. I wish I were back in Congress. I think looking at what's happened the last year or so, I think I would have made a difference if I'd been there. But nevertheless, I'm back to tilting at those other windmills and being as good a lawyer as I can be and helping the best way I can.
Now, one of the things I always kind of respected about you is you really didn't have to be in Congress. You don't need the bribes to be in Congress like other people. You are actually a self-made person. So, I mean, when the hell are you going to be back?
Oh, I don't know. That's not up to me. That's up to the voters. Last time I ran for office, Rupert Murdoch's son, who is the president of Fox News, the day that I announced that I was running, he put $750,000 into a super PAC to defeat me. And this was in a Democratic primary, by the way. And the spending in the last 30 days of that primary, the negative advertising was utterly relentless. My district has a lot of Hispanics in it. On Telemundo, they ran a negative ad against me every 45 minutes around the clock for the last 2 weeks of the campaign. And most of this was financed by Rupert Murdoch's son. Well, people say, well, why didn't you go and tell people that? Well, I did tell people that. But the way things work is that there's a much bigger microphone, megaphone even, with super PACs than anything that I could conjure up. And that's what happened. I was literally defeated by Rupert Murdoch's son and his money. And now we've reached the point where Fox News determines not only who the Republican nominees are, but who the Democratic nominees are. And that's the answer to your question.
Okay, so before we go into the other subjects, so how is the campaign going right now?
Well, I'm not planning to rise a serious campaign until 2022. Because of the census, there'll be an extra seat in Central Florida where I live. Florida's apparently going to pick up 2 seats in Congress. One of them will be in the South and one of them will be in the middle of the state. And the lines will be redrawn and everything will be a bit jumbled. I will probably end up running against a Republican incumbent, but I've done that before and won. I did that in 2008 in an R+5 district. So we'll wait and see. But those are the opportunities that I see going forward. And I did the same thing in 2012. $5 million of Koch brothers money was spent against me to defeat me in 2010. And I lost by 18 points. And then 2 years later, in 2012, I won by 25. The biggest comeback in the history of the U.S. Congress. You can look it up. I checked that with the House historian.
Well, let me tell you, for what we have, many of us in this progressive space, or what, there are some dreams that we have as far as building a network to really go against what's been what people have considered the status quo in campaigning, that big money and big TV ads can do it. That's going to make a change in the next few years, if many of us have anything to say about it. But you've been working with COVID-19, with a COVID-19 group. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, what we're trying to do as a group is to put together a progressive platform in order to deal with the COVID-19 problem. And it's a very broad platform. Some people focus on the medical elements of it. Some people focus on the economic elements of it. Some people focus on the democratic elements of it, the sense that this could end up denying our votes come November and has already led to the postponement of some primaries, and what to do about that. But however you look at it, it's all a matter of taking a human-centric approach to this terrible plague that's interrupted our lives and is likely to continue to do so. And to do it in a way that reflects human dignity. You know, I often said when I was in Congress, I often pointed out to various audiences that when one of my 5 children got sick, then he or she stayed home with me that day from school. But when we went to Hardee's and or McDonald's and tried to get a sandwich, the person behind the counter wasn't allowed to leave his or her job when he or she got sick. They had to work. So my children couldn't go to school, but the people who were serving us the food at a fast food joint, they had to go to work. And the result of that is that we have a population that A, doesn't get any time off when they're sick and they need to be home, and B, is in a position to expose other people, and C, often doesn't have any health coverage when they do get sick. And that's not a situation we can survive any longer. What's happening is that reality is pushing us toward the values of progressive Democrats. We live in a society now where there's really no real choice left about universal health care. We have to have it because if we have 10% of the population that can't see a doctor when they're sick, we have 10% of the population that will unfortunately be subject to spreading disease to other people. And it's the same thing now with the universal basic income. There wasn't any talk of a universal basic income in Congress until now. And now we see $1,200 checks being mailed out with barely a thought. And what's happening again is that reality is pushing us toward progressive democratic values in so many ways. You're going to see that continue. You're going to see that continue with voting, with childcare, with all sorts of issues that we've been wrestling with, because this is what reality wants, and we're all going to have to adapt to it.
It's ironic that it was Mr. 47% who first suggested UBI in the Senate, isn't it?
What can I tell you? Life is full of ironies. You have to roll with it.
Well, you know, like I said on several of the shows, don't look at that as a change. Look at that as survival of the 1%. That's the only reason we got that, because we just about had to find a way to take us over till we figure out exactly what we're going to do. Now, it's interesting because in as much as everything that you just said is correct, my problems or my concern is that we still have to win the message war. People people are getting all this sort of information over the internet these days. I've just been fighting some videos over the last several days from people who they know that they're in dire straits. They know that, but there's this information coming down saying, but if we do it your way, these are the problems. We have so much to counteract, not only from reality, but from the false reality that these guys are creating.
Well, here's the sad and overwhelming truth. America has more COVID-19 deaths than any other country in the world. None of those deaths are faked. None of those deaths are made up or artificial. In the same way that from politics, I have the scars on my back to show the whipping that I've gotten in various times over the years from various people. Some of them are on our side, supposedly. In the same way, we have the graveyards, the full graveyards, to show the real effect of this crisis on us and people whom we know and people whom we love. And we also have examples around the world of other places with actual true leadership who pay attention, think about the problem, do what needs to be done, and get the job done. In many places around the world that are not terribly different from the United States, places like New Zealand, for instance, places like Singapore, even a place like Singapore, hopelessly crowded if you've ever been there. I mean, everybody's brushing up against everybody else all day long. These are places that have actually beaten the virus. And in our case, we had a lockdown that only stopped the growth of the virus for a month. You know, in other places, places like South Korea, they've pretty much beaten the problem. You could have an outbreak, it's a small outbreak here and there, but they do the job properly. They test everybody in the vicinity, and they do contact tracing. I'm waiting for a reporter to ask the President of the United States, so Mr. President, how much contact tracing is the federal government doing? Oh, none? Why is that? Why aren't you doing that? There is, you know, how should I put this? Common sense solutions to this problem that involve testing, that involve serious quarantining, that involve contact tracing, that involve better treatment so that the system doesn't get overwhelmed. There are solutions to these problems that would literally keep people alive, and they're not being done. We have a fool for a president. He's the oath of office. He gets up in front of a desperate population facing the greatest health crisis of our entire life, and all he wants to do is argue with reporters with his petty nonsense. The failure of leadership is shocking. It is probably the greatest failure of leadership that you could find anywhere in the world for the past 50 years. And we're all going to pay the price for it.
Yeah, we are. And, everybody's trying to hold off. The stock market is going up and down, but mostly still going up again. You kind of wonder if they don't realize, economically speaking, where we're heading. Or let me ask you, do you really think, as I believe, you think differently, that we're heading for a depression?
It all depends on what people do, because it always depends upon what people do. That's one of the great insights of being available to somebody who actually has served as a member of Congress. People's decisions at the top actually do matter. We don't live in a system where everything is ironclad and nobody has any free will. How you respond to crises makes all the difference in the world. The fact that we had Franklin Roosevelt as president in World War II, rather than Benito Mussolini as our president, meant that we won instead of lost. These things do matter, and they're going to matter going forward. But to answer your question, we are in a dire economic crisis that is unparalleled in the history of the country. We normally have crises that involve a shortage of demand. What that means is pretty much what Keynes described. People don't have enough money in their pockets, they don't spend, therefore they don't earn, therefore it becomes a vicious circle, and the economy goes down the drain. That's what happened in the Great Depression. The stock market was an early indicator of that, but Actually, what happened in the next 3 years after that was that people's ordinary livelihoods were destroyed, and we reached an unemployment rate that has never been seen since then, although probably will be seen here in the United States next week. So the demand problem is usually what leads to an economic dislocation, like in 1974 or like in 2000. This is different. This is a supply problem and a demand problem. People aren't working. They don't have enough money to spend. They're afraid to spend it. And therefore, you're going to see that demand problem. But there's also a dramatic supply problem. Labor is mobile. People can change jobs. Capital generally is not. Here in Orlando, Disney spent tens of billions of dollars to create a theme park, which may now be defunct. I compared this to sort of the opposite of a neutron bomb attack, because here, labor is left standing and needy, breathing and hungry, whereas the buildings are all destroyed. The functional value of the buildings are all destroyed. People are not going to be going on cruises anytime soon. They may not be going to theme parks anytime soon. They may not be buying lots of cars anytime soon because they don't have the money and they're afraid to spend it. The savings rate will be astronomical going forward compared to what it's been in the recent past. People think, well, that's a good thing. Well, actually, no, because people are saving their money and not spending it. They're not buying anything, and therefore nobody's selling anything to them. There are fundamental changes in the supply of goods and services in this country going forward. One reason why you're seeing the stock market go up is that for those people who actually have money in their pockets, they have no great desire to buy more goods, buy more services. So they end up buying this ephemeral thing we call stocks instead, and that tends to support the stock market. But it doesn't change the fact that vast parts of the U.S. economy just went up in smoke. And it's the same as it was in the Midwest when demanufacturing occurred in the Midwest. The buildings are all still there. You know, go to Wheeling and you'll see plenty of factories. It's just that nobody's in them and nobody's making anything anymore. And that's the kind of dislocation that we're going to see from the virus, not just yesterday, not just today, not just tomorrow, but for quite a while to come. Because people are going to be afraid to spend their money, whether that's how they're going to feel. You can't make people spend money. In a capitalist system, you can't do that. And B, what they want to spend it on is fundamentally different from what they've been spending it on up to this point. United came out yesterday with Virgin Atlantic came out yesterday with a statement saying that they hope that their 2019 sales will be restored by 2022.
No.
I don't think so.
No, not a chance.
I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think people look at a trip to Europe anymore the same way that they did 2 months ago.
No.
And time will tell. But there's going to be enormous economic dislocation. And if you go by the unemployment numbers, in terms of Great Depression, we're already there. One more week, 3 million new unemployment applications, and we will have topped the Great Depression.
I think that's the reason I said what I said. And I think in as much as you say it's what people depend on what people do, you've just declared a Great Depression, if not worse, because those are things that we fundamentally changed our life to do. And if we have a place like Disney, and we have many of those all over the country going under, then that's an issue. And to have the president that we have as president is shameful. It's amazing what Jimmy Kimmel did to him yesterday when he pointed out, while he is busy tweeting about what's wrong with comedians and journalists, why hadn't he once said, I feel the sorrow for those who are dying?
And the answer is because he doesn't.
Right.
That's why. He didn't say that because he doesn't. It's all about him. He only cares about what he sees in the mirror. That's it. That's the price you pay for having the ultimate narcissist as president of the United States. And he's incapable of doing what you are describing. You know, to listen to him talk about the victims of COVID-19 is roughly the same as watching me on a skateboard. I just can't do it. Okay, I just don't know how to skateboard. I'm sorry, and it's the same thing with him. He'll take a stab at it from time to time, but he's an utter freaking failure.
I like that one. It's an utter failure. Yeah. Anyway, Congressman Grayson, in closing, tell me something that I haven't asked you that you want to get out there into the ethos.
Right. Well, we talked a lot about the problem, but what about the solution? The solution is simply equality. All of the problems that we've been facing in this country during your life and my life, certainly for at least the past 40 years, have been a function of one underlying problem, and that underlying problem is inequality. That's the real problem. And we cannot afford to allow that to continue any longer. The only way that we can protect people effectively from the COVID virus is that everybody has health coverage. The only way that we can keep people from starving or becoming violent is if we have a universal basic income. The only way that we can pay for all of this is if we see to it that rich people pay their fair share in taxes. So having a progressive tax system. All of the progressive solutions that have been on the table for 100 years now, going back to the progressive platform of the Progressive Party in 1920, all of those things are now a dire necessity. The difference between life and death. And all through my political career, I've heard people say, well, you ought to compromise. You ought to meet the other side halfway. Well, there is no compromise between life and death. And that's what we have to decide now. Are we going to have a policy that actually exalts the dignity of ordinary human beings, or are we simply going to keep handing out trillions of dollars in corporate welfare and hope for the best? And I know which side I'm on.
Former Congressman Alan Grayson, one of the members of the progressive team. We are going to make a difference, and we're going to make a change. Thank you, Congressman, for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed that one. We did that this morning early to kind of the match time, etc. All right, let me go ahead and salute all the great people that are in here. Let's start with Michael Rudnin. Welcome aboard. Patricia De Galani. Simone Morgan. Let's see. Who else is here? Bruce Pollard. Derek Bell. Kathy C. Courtney. William Gretschman. Lee Grant. Let's see, if I miss you, forgive me. Mike Cisak, para ver quién más estoy con aquí. Derek Bell, I think I called you already. Curtis Jacobs, Sandra Anglade, Roberto Luis, mi panameño favorito. Daniel Ledo, Marie Carmen Gabaud Camo, welcome aboard as well. Let's see, Lee Grant, Sandra Glade, I think I got you too. And if I miss you, just tell me I missed you and I'll call you, give you a shout out. Let's see who else is here that I'm missing. Okay, I'm going to start from the bottom and go up for about 4 minutes real quick. Simone Morgan, Teston, I see you. Okay, Norman Reynolds, welcome aboard. The likely choice for most folks that don't have is a resistance movement. Exactly, brother, exactly. Para ver. Lee Grant says, has anyone here received any Trump Corona bucks? Funny. Okay, let's continue. Let's see what else I need to come up. I've seen one that I wanted to answer real quickly. All the rest I could answer. Otherwise, Crystal Ball Rising. I love that find. I hadn't listened to that show. I guess that's today or yesterday. There's this thing called growth, right? All the stock market is based on growth. That's why they can claim it is okay that it's not gambling, because they're looking at future growth. And because they're looking at future growth, the price of the stock does not have to equal the capitalization of the company plus whatever goodwill quantifiable goodwill that you can get, right? Well, it's BS. And Crystal Ball, if I understand what you're saying right there, Radnin was absolutely right about that. We have to get around. What is wrong with you saying, I am making a product, I have a constant rate of profit of, let's say, 10% on the product. I can feed my families, I can do my charity work, I can do all these things and keep it steady state. If you have a company that is doing that, that stock market, that stock price flattens. And not only does it flatten, it can fall below the actual capital value of the company. That's how crazy our financial system is, how sick it is, how inhumane it is. It's not a real system. It's a figment of some fat cat's imagination to rip you off. AVQ, I don't think I told you hello. AVQ, welcome aboard. Para ver. Singapore, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Japan, and South Korea responses were successful. Of course, they did it right. But again, folks, I want all of you that are listening to me here, there's a video going around that tries to make believe that somehow this virus was created in a lab, and if it was put out by the Chinese, and that is the reason we're in the state. Don't let your people continue to promote that crazy stuff. It has a lot of, believe it or not, that video does have some good information in there. When it talks about the patents, they're correct. When it talks about the pharmaceuticals, they're correct. But don't let them create the false equivalence. Things do not have to be mutually exclusive. The pharmaceutical can be a piece of crap that does evil, but at the same time, the vaccine that they made that was created with your tax dollars is just fine. So let's not allow them to screw with our thinking process. We can chew gum and walk at the same time. We can do many things at the same time. I got to close us out here now and ask you to become contributors. I want anybody that's listening to me, consider becoming a patron of Politics Done Right. What that means is that you just go ahead and sign up at patreon.com. And let me give you that link. That by becoming a patron, you are ensuring that we can continue to get all these great guests and promote all the stuff that we promote. Go to Patreon, patreon.com/Politics Done Right. That is, again, patreon.com/Politics Done Right. That is how we get things done. You can also, if you just want to do a contribution or you want to do however you want to do it, you can also go to paypal.me/Politics Done Right, paypal.me/Politics Done Right. And then, of course, you can go to our store. Our store is store.politicsdoneright.com. And what can you get at our store? Check out the screen. If you're not listening on podcasts, look at the screen. You got our t-shirts, you got our cups, you got our books. As I see it, Class Warfare, the only resort to right-wing doom. If you really want to get a little information on how our economy really, por favor. Esto es la forma en que funciona nuestra economía de verdad. That is how our economy really works. We learn about patents, all that kind of good stuff. And it's easy to read, easy to understand, and you can become an expert by checking this stuff out. You know why? Because the economy is not complicated. You know what is complicated within our economy, brothers and sisters? They have to make our economy complicated so they can rip us off. But ultimately, an economy is just this. I have a product to sell, and you have the money to exchange for that product. That is what an economy is. So please don't let anybody try to tell you otherwise or try to tell you, oh, it's complex. You know, we could talk about Keynesian economics and we talk about the Laffer curve and we talk about all these kinds of issues. I discuss that in the book. But the reality is I show you how simplistic and how easy these things really are. They make it seem difficult because they need you to believe that you don't know what you really know. But I'm here to tell you we are all in this together. So please, folks, go ahead and please become a subscriber. A subscriber, go to patreon.com/Politics Done Right. patreon.com/Politics Done Right. Or go to our PayPal, paypal.me/Politics Done Right. Or go to our store, get a t-shirt, get a cup, get our book. And by the way, I forgot, I have another book too, right? This one here that says, hey, this is how I lost weight and got myself under control to try to live a little bit longer so I can do my progressive gig a little bit longer to make sure that we can change this country the way it needs to be changed. Because God knows we. Hey, love you too, Patricia De Galani. Great seeing all of you guys here. And you know what? I love you all, folks, because this is what we got to do together. Even my conservatives on this line that gives me hell, meaning you, Lee, meaning you, Lado, meaning you, CSAC. Love you guys too. Anyhow, this is the end of the show. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you know how I end this, baby? I am what? Out! Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.